Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased to start the new year and the new congressional session with our first legislative action being a rule for comprehensive bipartisan bill to address a threat to our constituents both across Pennsylvania and across the country. Per- and polyfluoroalkyl substances, commonly known as PFAS, have been manufactured and used in the United States for over 60 years. These chemicals are found in everyday products like food packaging materials, cleaning products, non-stick cookware, stain and water-resistant materials, firefighting foams, and more. There are thousands of PFAS chemicals, but two of the most common and most notorious are PFOA and PFOS, substances used to make Teflon and Scotchgard, respectively. PFAS are known as forever chemicals. They do not break down, and they remain in the environment and other living organisms for decades. PFAS chemicals are made of one of the strongest carbon bonds possible. As a result, these substances are extremely persistent in the environment and are able to be absorbed by humans and wildlife. PFAS have long been linked with various forms of cancer, including kidney, liver, and pancreatic cancers, weakened immune systems, low birth weight, infertility, impaired childhood development, and other diseases. Not only are these substances resilient and harmful, but they're now found in the blood of over 99% of Americans. PFAS contaminate our environment in a variety of ways, particularly through landfills and wastewater runoff sites. Once these chemicals are introduced into an area, they leach into the soil and groundwater, becoming immediate threats to surrounding life. Analysis by the Environmental Working Group found that more than 1,500 drinking water systems in the United States may be contaminated with PFAS, affecting up to 110 million Americans from drinking water alone. In the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, 17 sites have been identified as containing PFAS contamination. Some of these sites are water utilities and civilian airports, but additional sites like waste incinerators were included as well. People living in close proximity to waste incinerators already face a host of environmental risk factors from polluted air and water, and adding additional contaminants from PFAS adds insult to injury for these neglected and often economically distressed areas. The Department of Defense has identified over 400 military sites across the U.S. that used or were suspected to have used PFAS in firefighting foam. Montgomery County, Pennsylvania is home to two of these former bases, where firefighting foam leached into the groundwater after years of use. These bases are no longer active, but the effects from PFAS will be felt by residents for generations to come. My friend and colleague, Congresswoman Madeline Dean, a founding member of the PFAS Task Force, helped secure a grant to study the health effects of PFAS contamination in this area. I commend the work that she's doing to protect our constituents and to ensure that they have a water supply that they can rely on for generations to come. The fact of the matter is that the federal government has known about the dangers presented by PFAS for years. The chemical industry has known for even longer, and unsurprisingly has fought tooth and nail against efforts to regulate their distribution and use. Despite this, the only action taken against PFAS was in 2006 when the EPA instituted a voluntary phase-out of PFOA and PFOS instead of instituting any stronger measures. Recently, the EPA has declined to promulgate standards on PFAS, despite acknowledging the dangers they present to human and environmental health. Just as foxes shouldn't guard the henhouse, chemical companies shouldn't be trusted to regulate themselves. Research on the additional thousands of PFAS outside of PFOS and PFOA can and should continue, but thus far, all research has confirmed that PFAS are harmful. We would not eat food that could potentially cause us harm without understanding the full range of ramifications first. Why should we put those risks on our children without first knowing how PFAS will affect them? H.R. 535 will provide protections to our communities in the immediate term and ensure that there are enforceable standards in place for the long term. This bill will require the EPA to use tools under existing environmental statutes to require cleanup of sites contaminated with PFOA and PFOS, set air emission limits, prohibit unsafe incineration of PFAS, and limit the introduction of new PFAS chemicals into the market. Further, the PFAS Action Act will limit human exposure to PFAS by requiring a drinking water standard for PFAS that protects public health, particularly regarding the health of vulnerable groups like infants, children, and pregnant women. Finally, the bill takes the necessary step of designating all PFAS as hazardous substances under the Comprehensive Environmental Response Compensation and Liability Act. I'd like to recognize and thank my colleague, Congresswoman Debbie Dingell, for her hard work and tireless efforts to keep Americans safe from PFAS, as well as Congressman Fred Upton and the other members of the Energy and Commerce Committee whose bills were incorporated into H.R. 535. I urge support for the rule and the underlying bill, and I reserve the balance of my time.